It's always such a pleasure coming to talk about AIMS, and especially coming out to Cambridge to talk about AIMS. So my talk today is really to see how we at AIMS, the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, strive for academic excellence through collaborations and partnerships. And just to give you a very short roadmap, I would do a very brief introduction on AIMS and the AIMS NEI, which is the Next Einstein initiative. And sometimes I get really, maybe excited is not the word, but sometimes very passionate. And I feel there's so much to talk about AIMS. And I don't really do justice by me just being the only one doing it. And I feel like I want to bring some students, bring some alumni, bring some staff to tell you about AIMS. But then, thanks to technology, I thought, okay, I have a really short film I would like to share with you, and that would achieve that wish. Following on from the short film, I'll then just highlight on some of the key pillars of AIMS, and then just a few alumni to see what they've been doing since leaving AIMS. And that would lead me nicely to talk about some of the collaborations, some which we've been having informally with Cambridge, but also opportunities for future collaborations. And that would kind of round up the talk very nicely. So AIMS actually is a Pan-African, it's a network of institutes based in Africa, and we draw on students from all the African countries. Currently, we are representing about 42 African countries, and we're really proud that we're also proactively encouraging women to join. So our student body, on average, always has about 30% of women. And what the aspiration is that in the future, not so far future, we should be able to have like a 50-50 balance. So we also are very quickly put at the bottom the three pillars, which is the scientific training, the research we do, and also the public engagement activity. But how do we do this? How do we look at the future? The future, we're looking like we really want to be part of the future. We want to lead that transformation. How do we get Africa to a position where we can achieve technical discoveries, breakthroughs, and through our mathematical sciences, and then benefit Africa and the whole of society? So that's our vision, to lead that transformation. And how are we going to do it? We're trying to do that, and we are doing that by giving mathematical skills to young, talented Africans who have the potential for becoming thinkers, innovators, problem solvers, to start addressing some of the problems which are key to Africa. I'll talk a little bit more as I go through the main pillars of AIMS. And the first pillar is the postgraduate training, which we do. It's a structured master's course in mathematical sciences. And this is broken up into three phases of skills courses, review courses, and also the research phase, after which the exams, they examine the students when they write up their dissertations, and then graduation. So at the moment, we've got just under 1,000 students from the 5 institutes where we currently have centers. And this previous slide shows you the centers in Senegal, Ghana, Cameroon, Tanzania, and South Africa. Now, the idea about AIMS was very simple because the way Professor Neil Turok, who was the founder of AIMS, thought about it is using mathematical sciences. Mathematical sciences is the backbone of a lot of the other sciences, backbone of innovations. So by building capacity in Africa and also giving a chance to the youth, the talented, those who show potential in developing careers in science, we're giving Africa a real chance for being innovative and beginning to solve some of the problems that are unique to Africa. So we have this formal training, and the next pillar really looks at the research. With the research, we try to look at different areas in health, business, government, ICT, space, and the universe. Under the health, I was actually quite interested listening to Professor Alison Elliott, when she was speaking, because she highlighted some of the areas as well where their graduates have been working in research. And biomathematics and mathematics and physics are one of the areas which we have some of our alumni already doing research at the research centers or at various institutions where they're working now since they left Ames, went on to do their PhDs, and they finished. Other areas are financial mathematics, which are applicable in the stock market in terms of stock pricing, computational mathematics. Now we have issues with data security and big data. So that's the kind of mathematics they do, which help in that area. Geomathematics, again, looks at oil and gas, exploration of resources, energy resources, as well as cosmology and astrophysics, which also, provides the students with different alternative routes in applying their mathematical skills, their applied mathematical skills. So I just want to pause for a little bit and just look at some of our alumni who have gone through Ames, gone on to do postgraduate work, PhDs, and they're now working. We're particularly proud about Gaston. Gaston finished from Ames, South Africa, went on to Stellenbosch to do his further studies. And he's holding at the moment a joint Ames Career Development Chair. And Ames very proudly started creating this junior research chair's position to really encourage a lot of the students who had gone through Ames and on to different studies to start coming back to Africa and start, contributing to the development of Africa through their skills and knowledge. So what Gaston did, he's holding this chair in quantitative immunology and bioinformatics, and has been looking at the infectious diseases in Africa. He also, when the outbreak of we had the outbreak of Ebola, he was also having a particular interest in this area working. So the relationship is also, the reason why it's a joint chair program, we also realize that within the Ames network, as we strive to open many centers, currently 5, and we're aiming to go up to about 15 centers, we need to stay connected. The centers need to know what each other are doing, especially in that space. So having a joint research career development position, he is based in South Africa. We have another researcher who is based at Ames, Ghana. They can always compare notes, and we always know what's happening at the different centers. So that was also to encourage that. And this is one of the initiatives which is supported by one of our funders, IDRC. Now, we have a couple others who were one of the earlier graduates from Ames. Angelina, actually from Tanzania, she is working right now at the Ifakara Health Institute in Tanzania. And again, earlier on we heard about works, I believe it was Dr. Masigo who talked about one of the researchers who was looking at mosquito dispersal, or why mosquitoes decided to settle in certain areas. Angelina is doing similar work and is also investigating the role of mosquito dispersal and transmission, and helping to inform and advise the Ministry of Health in Tanzania. Dr. Antoine is also another research chair at an Ames center in South Africa. We're also very proud about this because it's one of the initiatives we're also introducing to get back African scientists on the continent. So he's the first Ames African Research, Education and Teaching Excellence Chairs. And his interest is really in geomatics, and he's looking at how to, improve energy, extractive industries, oil and gas, but also how to accurately forecast energy production in oil and gas. So the other pillar of Ames is the public engagement. We do quite a lot to help with teacher training, because we also realize that in most of the countries in Africa, they're also struggling with the way mathematics is taught. So Ames South Africa, for example, has got a flagship program, which is the School Enrichment Program, AMSEC, and they go out and they train teachers who go on and train other teachers around the country. So we do also school visits where we try to encourage particularly girls to take up sciences, not to shy away from mathematics. We engage in public lectures. We try to influence policies by, just promoting the STEM. And one of the key activities which we are working on at the moment, and it will be coming up next year, I believe might have been mentioned earlier this morning by the Vice Chancellor, is the Next Einstein Forum. Now, the Next Einstein Forum, we really are excited about it because it's the first time on African soil we're holding a forum for science where we're going to showcase top African scientists. And for this first session, we're looking to select 16 African scientists to showcase their work, but then invite a cross-section of people. We invite academics, including Nobel laureates, we invite journalists, we invite people from corporations, from the government, to come and really engage in science-focused discussions, seeing how we connect science to humanity, talk more about the applicability. And we feel very, very privileged to have the Vice Chancellor, Professor Leszek Borowisk, to be a founding patron of NEF. And I believe he will be in Senegal in March next year for this forum. So coming back to look at how we're trying to achieve scientific excellence through collaboration, I think I had a conversation during lunchtime, and although we seem to have been doing quite a lot with Cambridge, it's been largely informal. But our links with Cambridge go back as far back as when AIMS was founded, back in 2003, partly because Neil Turok, he used to be the head of the mathematical physics department. And also we have Professor Keith Moffat, who is, I believe, currently a professor in mathematical physics. But also they both sit on the international board of directors for AIMS. So over the years, as you see the different pictures flying in, that's how frequently we've been getting volunteer lecturers to go out to the AIMS center to teach at the different AIMS centers. And typically, a course would take about 3 weeks. So the professors would usually take time out to come out to any of the AIMS centers. From 2003, it was mostly AIMS South Africa, but from 2011, we then added Senegal, we added Ghana, Cameroon, and Tanzania. So all these centers, we've been getting quite a lot of faculty going out there. And this is one of the areas where Cambridge has been very active and supported, even though it wasn't really formalized. We also have been working with Cambridge University Press, and they have donated almost well over 300 titles to books to AIMS libraries, particularly to Senegal, some to Tanzania, and I believe Ghana. But also with the University Press, they've been publishing the AIMS library series. And these series of titles are edited by Professor Alan Bearden. And I think the whole idea was to try and see how they can provide some of this scientific material, information at an affordable cost to students in Africa. So there are more series which would come in this title, but these are some of the collaborations which we informally have with Cambridge and the University Press in particular. And also with the Cambridge Trust, very recently, we've been looking at how we can get more of the AIMS graduates to be able to come up and do research masters at Cambridge, as well as PhDs, depending on what field of study they select. So this is something we are also quite keen about, because some of the students are very excited in exploring their horizons, but they don't often know what options are open to them. So we're working very closely with Cambridge Trust to see how we can support this process and get them to find the necessary information they need to apply so that they can benefit from some of these scholarships. And I believe later on Cambridge Trust will be talking a bit more as to what they do in that space in providing international scholarships. So, what's the way forward? The way forward is, for us at AIMS, there's so much change. A lot is happening at AIMS, and even though we've been doing quite a lot of things informally, actually, I kind of think we should be on that roll-up banner, but we're probably heading there because we're looking at other areas where we can have active participation, such as as well as we saw getting lecturers teaching at Ames, we would like to create spaces for maybe PhDs and postdocs to come and spend some time as tutors at Ames centers, maybe 5 months or however suits them. And it would be a good exchange, both for the students coming into Ames centers and also for Ames students to benefit. And our experience has been that when some of these interactions happen, some of the students discover new areas of interest that they hadn't thought about, and sometimes could enrichen some of those universities by going out there to carry on research programs. So that has been something which has been very useful. And with the creation of research chairs, we also hope that we can start developing that initiative more with Cambridge. Doing some, maybe having a research chair from Cambridge to spend some time at an Ames center and then the rest of the time at Ames. And what about even maybe doing joint degree programs? And that could work on a similar understanding whereby maybe the particular students can spend some of their time at Cambridge as well as in Africa, and we can get faculty doing a similar thing. The next Einstein Forum I mentioned briefly. It's a forum just to promote science, young African scientists. But there's always scope to see what kind of interactions can happen in that space. And finally, the broad area we're working on is Ames Industry Initiative. To us, this is really key because over the years, what we've realized is, as well as we are getting a lot of students who are coming in with mathematics background or physics background or with the sciences, some of them, it's not all of them who want to carry on in academia. Some of them come into Ames, or by the time they come to Ames, they've started having ideas of becoming an entrepreneur. They might have an idea and they think, how am I going to take this to market? So we've started introducing entrepreneurship course at the Ames centers, but what we're also actively doing is reaching out to the private sector, to corporations, different sectors of the organization, to come and either give public lectures at the centers, just so that students can be more aware of how they can transfer their skills into real life in different sectors of the economy. And just as in form of acknowledgement, the one big partnership we developed this year was with the MasterCard Foundation. And with MasterCard Foundation, I actually managed to miss the logo on this, but I thought I would just talk about it. It's pioneering a teacher training program in Cameroon. They're also very interested in getting more women into science. And also at Ames Senegal, they're introducing a co-op program. And this very closely aligns with the industry initiative, because now as part of the training that the students get as MasterCard scholars, they're going to align them with some industries locally based in Senegal, so that by the time they finish their course, and for those scholars, they spend an extra 6 months. So by the time they finish their course, they become more, they've already had some industry experience and can make an easier translation. So thanks so much for your time, and I promise I'll show you the video another time.
A big thank you to Irene. So are there any questions for Irene? I mean, it's great to hear about the Ames initiative, which is so well established, and great to hear about the new funding that's come into through MasterCard this year as well. Yeah, there's a question at the back there.
How do your students get funded? How do your students get funded? The students in Africa, is it free of charge for the training, or do they have to pay a fee?
Okay, thanks. So the key thing about Ames is that all the students who come through Africa get a full scholarship. They don't pay anything. We even pay for their fares to come to get to the Ames Center. And the whole idea was that there's so many talented students in Africa, but some of them cannot carry on with their career because of financial reasons. And because mathematical sciences was identified as one of those fundamental disciplines which we need to be able to be innovative and help in the development of a country, it was then decided that they should be able to come to AIMS and explore, and we should be able to train them and let them reach their potential without being stopped by financial means. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Yeah, there's one over there. Do you have another? The microphone, can it travel? Yeah, thank you.
My name is Irene. I just want to know what criteria you use in choosing countries to host AIMS, because as far as I know, Nigeria is not only the largest economy in Africa, it is also the most populous African country. And I will easily infer that it will have larger percent of intellectuals in Africa. So why did you skip Nigeria to Senegal first and then to Ghana? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I think I kind of anticipated that question. There's no presentation that I do without getting a similar question. It's very simple. The AIMS model, which probably because of time, I couldn't really go into great detail, is a model which is highly flexible. It's not like we don't call ourselves a university. It's a very flexible model, and it's necessarily so to be able to get the kind of faculty we can attract into the centers to train the students. But talking about the case of Nigeria, I think, or any country, one of the key requirements, one of the key criteria that a country needs to satisfy is, first of all, to understand the AIMS model and be able to work with it. So being able to work with it means we need full commitment from the government that we are joint partners, because we require every host government to take care of 50% of the operational costs of running an AIM center. That is key. They need to give us the land, because eventually we intend to build permanent facilities in every country where we operate. And before we start building, to facilitate the process of getting temporary facilities. So the simple answer is that it all depends on the readiness of the country. Once the country is ready and they show that commitment, and it's also a financial commitment up front, then we can work with the countries. So the other countries we've been able to open an AIMS center is because they've also been able to meet the criteria. There's several other criteria which are very detailed, but the high level criteria is that we want 100% commitment from the government. Because whenever we go into a country, even though we operate as an independent institute, we work with at least a minimum of 3 host universities in the country. So that partnership has to be there. We depend on the local faculties as well, and we interact with them. So the government has to commit to being part of that process and see AIMS as an engine to help it fulfill its objectives in developing science capacity. Nigeria, however, to reassure you, we actually have feasibility studies going on as we speak. So it's only a matter of time. As soon as they're ready, we'll be in Nigeria.
So I wonder whether we can thank Irene, Alison, and Dan for 3 great talks.
Thank you.